welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make one of these really pretty mandala wall hangings. This one I've done in different colours. This one has been done all in one colour. You can do them either way. Today I'm going to make a rainbow one, so I will be changing colour every row, but if you want to make a single colour one, you do the same method just without changing colours on every row. So for this tutorial we are going to be needing a 23cm wooden hoop, up to 8 colours of double knit yarn, and a 4mm hook. Let's get started. So to start with, I'm going to make a magic ring. You can do the chain method if you prefer, but I quite like using the double magic ring. And I'm going to chain 2. Now we are going to put 19 more stitches into this loop, so we have 20 stitches total if we include our chain. So these are treble crochet UK terms or double crochet US terms. So we want 20 stitches in this first round. So I shall continue around until I get back to there with 20 stitches. So I have 20 stitches. If you're going to continue to use the same colour, don't cut and weave in your ends now. You just slip stitch into your first and then chain 5, I think is the next row, but I'm going to cut and weave in my ends. I like to weave in my ends as I go. I'm one of those. I cannot fathom weaving in your ends all at the end. I prefer to do it as you go. So I'm just going to do an invisible join there. And then we're going to pick our next colour. So now we're going to attach our next colour. With a slip stitch. And now we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to skip 1 and then do a treble UK or double US stitch into the next one. We're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and then skip 1 and do our stitch into the next one. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip a stitch, and continue around, and you should have 10 of these stitches in the round. So I've ended on my chain 3 and I'm going to just slip stitch into that first loop and cut and weave my ends. So now we're going to add our next colour. We're just going to go into one of these chain spaces, slip stitch it on, and we're going to chain 3. Now we're going to be doing UK trebles or US doubles, and we're going to do 4 more into that chain space. So if you count the first chain, that is 5 stitches total. 4, 5 stitches total, counting the first chain there. And then we're going to do 5 into each of these spaces. 2, 3, 4, 5. So continue that around, 5 into each of these spaces, so that will give you 50 stitches total. So I've done all 50 stitches. Now I'm just going to slip stitch into the first chain and cut and weave in my ends. So for our next round, I've taken my next colour. I'm going to attach it into the first stitch of one of these groups of 5s. So I shall attach that with a slip stitch. I'm going to chain 2. Then we're going to yarn over and do a cluster stitch. So we're going to put it through the next stitch, pull through. You've got 3 on your hook. I'm just going to pull through the first 2, which leaves 2 on your hook. Yarn over, through the next stitch, pull it through, go through just the first 2, and now you have 3 on your hook. Yarn over, through the next one, pull through just the first 2, leaving 4 on your hook. Yarn over, pull through just the first 2, and now you have 5 on your hook, and you're going to pull through all 5 and then do a chain closed. We're now going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to do a treble UK or double US into the space between the groups of 5, so above this blue one here, in between. Place our stitch, and then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to do another cluster, so we yarn over into the first stitch of the group of 5, pull it up and just pull through 2, yarn over, just pull through 2, yarn over, just pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and now you can pull through all of those and chain closed. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Working between the groups of 5, we're going to put a UK treble, US double. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Yarn over, put through the first stitch of the next group of 5, but only pull through the first 2, leaving 2 on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then pull through all of those and close. So continue around, it should look like this, and I'll get back to you when we get to the end. So I've done my last chain 3 after that stitch. I'm just going to yarn over and go between there and do one more chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to just slip stitch into the top of my very first cluster, and this is how it should be looking. So I'm going to cut and weave in my ends and start with my next colour. So with my next colour, I'm going to go into this space here next to that one, that single stitch. Just attach that one. Okay, so I'm going to chain 2, and that counts as the first stitch. So I'm going to add 3 more into this chain space, so that will be 4 total. 2, 3. And then I'm going to put one of these into the top of this double. If I can get it in there. I did that nice and tight, so that's a bit tricky. So 1 stitch into the top of that double. And I'm going to do 4 stitches into there. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do 4 stitches into the next chain space. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to put a stitch into the top of this one. Gosh, that's fiddly. And then 4 into the chain space. 1, 2, 3, 4. So continue around. 4, 1 into the top of the stitch, 4, all the way around, and I shall meet you back here. So I made it all the way around. I'm going to just slip stitch closed into this last stitch here, and so this row was a total of 90 stitches all the way around. So I'm going to cut and weave in my ends, ready for the next colour. So I have secured my next colour in the stitch just above one of these cluster points, and I'm going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, skip 2, slip stitch, chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, skip 2, slip stitch, chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, skip 2, slip stitch, chain 5, and continue that all the way around. So this is how it's looking. There are 30 of these chain spaces, and I'm going to just slip stitch back into that first stitch again to cut and weave in my ends. So now we're going to put our next colour into one of the chain spaces, slip stitched closed, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and slip stitch into the next chain space. 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch into the next. So it's very similar to the row previous. We're doing 4 chains, and we're just going to slip stitch into each of these loops we've created. So it will look like this. So I shall continue round and meet back with you at the end there. Now we're going to attach our last colour into one of the chain spaces and chain 2. This chain counts as our first stitch, and now we are going to do 4 more stitches, trebles UK, doubles US, into that space. 2, 3, 4. So that counts as 5 stitches if you include your chain. Push them up a little bit. We're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and we're doing I never know how to say this. It's picot stitch, picot stitch. So that means going back into the top of this last stitch here, go through those 2 loops, pull through and slip stitch closed. Now we're going to do 5 more stitches into this same space. So it's a lot of stitches all crammed into one. 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have in there 5, chain 3 and a picot stitch and another 5, so there's 10 stitches in there in total with this little bobble on top. Next stitch space we're just going to do a slip stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch into the next space again, chain 2, treble another 4, creating 5 stitches total. 2, 3, 4, 5. One, 2, 3 chains, working back into the top of that last stitch. We're going to do a slip stitch and then 5 more stitches into that same space. It's starting to look a little bit like this. So you slip stitch into your next one and then repeat all the way around. So oops, slip stitch, chain 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, work back into that last stitch with a slip stitch, and then 5. This is how it's looking, so I'm going to continue around. So I've made it all the way around. I'm just going to do one last slip stitch into that first there and cut and weave in my ends. And this is how it's looking. So here we have it, 15 points all the way around. Looks like a beautiful sunshine. Now we need to start attaching it to our loop. So as you can see, it's quite a bit smaller than our hoop, but we need to stretch it out. If the hoop is too small, it goes a bit floppy and it just doesn't sit quite right. So it's best to have one that's a bit bigger. So this is a 23 centimetre one. You can easily get these on Amazon or any local craft place. I will link below where I've got mine. So I'm going to use the light blue, I think, to go around because there's not much of it in here, so it'd be nice to put that around. So I'm going to start by attaching it on by doing a US single or UK double stitch. I'm going to go round, this is fiddly, but just do 12 of these all the way around. So just go slow and steady. As you can see, it creates like a ridge on top with the stitches showing and just loops around. So I'm going to do 12 of these and I shall come back to you when I've done 12. Okay, so I've done 12. I have to say it was much quicker once I lifted it up and pulled it closer to me. It was much easier to do. So for this 13th one, we're going to put it through one of our star points or sun points or mandala points, whatever you want to call it, and just complete that stitch. And then do another 12. I'm going to go and do that off camera because it's much easier to do it over here where I can see better. And once I've done the 12, I'll show you attaching the next one. So that's another 12 done. So I'm going to go into the next point and create another stitch. And then do 12 more and continue all the way around until every single one is attached. You can easily adjust these to be wider or tighter as you need once we have finished attaching them all. So I'm going to continue around and show you how that looks. To show you about halfway around, so here we are, and you can see it's starting to stretch out nicely. So continue around and pull them into place as you go. It's looking really pretty. So I have made it round to my last point. I'm just going to complete that stitch. And there they are, all beautifully attached. So now I am going to just slip a stitch into the very first stitch. Oops, bear with. Slip stitch into the first one there, and I'm going to chain maybe 20 or 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yes, 20 I think will be enough. And then I'm going to slip stitch back in to that first stitch. And I'm going to cut and weave in my ends. So that has created a loop for us to hang it at the top there. Weave in my ends. So here she is in all her glory. She needs tassels. They need tassels. It just completes the look. So I shall show you how to make tassels now. But it's looking fantastic. I love it. Really nice colours. This is going to look nice in my son's room. So yes, tassels next. So to make my tassels for these, I'm going to do rainbow tassels like this. So I'm using all the colours put together, and I am using my IKEA phone stand. This was about £2 in IKEA, and it's brilliant for making tassels. Of course you can use a notebook, but I like to use this. So we just wrap our yarn around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to do 6 times. And then turn it over. We take a length of yarn and thread it through this groove here. And simply tie that nice and tight. Like so. Turn it back round, and you can use this groove to easily put your scissors in and trim along. The lovely thing about these IKEA things is the gap between here and here is exactly the same distance, so once you take it out you'll find that they are perfectly even, so no need to trim. Now we need to bind the top of our tassel, so I'm going to take another length and make a loop, place the loop on the tassel like so, take the longer end and wrap that round a few times. Like this. Once you're happy with that, find your little loop and put your end through it. You have your other little tail that's joined to the end, and you're going to pull that in. Pull those tight together, and that tightens that. And then what I like to do, rather than trimming that off, is take a needle and just pushing it through like that. And then I have my slightly longer ends that I'm going to trim, and we have another tassel. To attach the tassels, you have your point at the top, your loop, and then you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. So you know that this is your centre. So you want to attach one of your tassels there. You can simply tie it on, or go through your crochet stitches and tie it on there. And I like with these to do 5, so I shall do 1 there, 2 each side of there, and then 2 each side of there. I will just show you with this last one how I attach the tassels. So I take one of the threads, thread it through a needle, and then just stitch it and tie it to the spot I want. Keeping the needle on there, I'm just going to loop it through a few times just to make sure it's secure. Stitch it through, just a couple, and then, like I did with the other one, push it down through the tassel. Take the other one, just stitch it a few times to make it extra secure, push it down through the middle of the tassel like so, and then check that those 2 ends aren't too long, trim those off. And you have your tassels at the bottom. Let me just show you how this looks on a wall. I apologise, the lighting is really bad in here, but you get the idea of it hanging up on the wall there with its lovely tassels next to its other little rainbow things. It's going to live here in my son's room. And there you have it, a beautiful wall hanging mandala with tassels. I've really enjoyed making this one with you. I hope you've enjoyed it too. I shall be making more tutorials, hopefully 1 a week if I'm able, so subscribe and stay in touch, and I shall see you again soon.